think everyone can see the screen, right? So okay. So hi. Yep. Okay. So hi, I'm Ipin. So yeah, I'll be sharing about the two specializations that I'm doing. So yeah, maybe I just introduce myself a bit. So I'm a final year student. Major in economics. I have a second major in management. So my specializations are quantitative econs and monetary and financial economics. So just some background, I'm part of NUS Political Association. I'm the editor-in-chief now for the in-house publication. I was also a former resident of Ridgefield Residential College. And I think a bit about my professional experiences. I've done some internships, so some in the public sector. So those were in Infrastructure Asia and the Ministry of Trade Industry, where I was a strategy and planning intern. Then I had some internships in the private sector. So I interned at Bank of Singapore as a mutual fund selection intern. Then I was at OCBC Bank last summer as a partnership and innovation intern. Yeah, and some of my hobbies is watching and playing sports. I like to do some photography and also read up on history and geopolitics lah. Yeah, so on the pictures there, so the bottom is my econs OG lah. Yeah, then the second picture is was my colleagues at OCBC lah during my summer intern. Yeah. So this is just a list of some of the modules I've taken lah, for both specializations. So under quantitative econs, more or less I've taken everything. And yeah lah. So and then for monetary and financial econs, I'm also more or less taking everything now except for international finance lah. Yeah. So I would say I've some good coverage around both specializations. So I added some legends there lah. So I think the requirements have changed a bit. So I think last time for those that matriculated in 19 and 20 and 20 and 21, 3304 is not under quantitative funds lah as a specialization. Whereas now it is under the, if you are taking your CHS as a, if you are a CHS student. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is just some of the specs that you can kind of find online on the NUS Econs page. I think it's quite straightforward lah. If you are interested in attending this session, I guess you should have done your own research already. So yeah, I think just maybe one thing people should take note is that not all modules are always offered. So I mean, I put a question mark there lah. So you see like this mathematical economic analysis, you can go and do your own research, but it rarely appears year on year. So if you're interested in taking that module to do this specialization, you should just take note lah. Yeah. Then okay. Yeah. So this is same for monetary and financial econs. Yeah lah. So I think monetary and economics and policy, this 4331 rarely appears also. This 4334, this financial micro market structure also rarely appears lah. So I think oops, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So just take note, I guess, if let's say you're doing your own research and then on what you want to do lah. Yeah. So okay, yeah. So I guess maybe I can just go into maybe some reasons for specializing. I guess this is what I think most people are more interested in. So I guess the first thing is really, I think you have interest in the topic lah, whether is it quantitative econs or monetary and financial econs. I guess my main interest in specializing was really because I was interested in more of the finance side of things. I was quite like financial econs is one of the more, I would say, interesting modules I've taken under the economics basket. So that's one main reason I really wanted to specialize. I think the second you might consider it as useful is to gain skill sets for work or graduate studies lah. I would say this second point is not that relevant, to be very, very honest. Mainly because I would say the economics modules, they do not necessarily provide you with all the skill sets you require. And the argument I make for this is that for those of you that might know, if you are a business analytics student, from the School of Computing, actually those students that take a lot of similar modules to us, they take econometrics modules as well. And I think over there, it's much more specialized. They teach them coding as well. So to be very frank, their skill sets are much more, I would say, practical as compared to whatever we are being taught in econs. So I would say, like, to be very honest, if you're trying to specialize in something just because it's useful, I would say that honestly it won't be useful yeah. But I think that let's say you want to go for graduate studies in econs, then I guess the quantitative track is really useful for you because you need to do when you go up to the higher levels, whether is it micro and macroeconomic analysis tree, when you go in depth into the math, those are the type of things that you encounter at graduate level. So I guess if you're someone who really wants to pursue masters or PhD in econ, then I guess that specialization is good for you. Yeah, I guess the last one is really, to signal to employers. So what I mean by that is that, maybe because if you put that specialization there, whoever is looking at your CV might say that, oh, okay, you're specializing in monetary and financial records, maybe means like better at this. So I guess that's a potential plus point. Yeah. So I say that, I think you should really weigh your pros and cons before you decide to specialize. Specialization is good and bad, like I say, it can signal, it can give you the skill sets, potentially can you pursue your interests, but at the same time it means that you have less flexibility choosing your modules. I think this is something that those who are under the CHS curriculum should really take note of, because you need to take more UEs, which means that you have lesser modules under the economics basket to clear. So I think you should take note of that. And it also means like some of the more interesting modules, maybe like for example behavioral economics, modules on innovation, whatnot, you may not be able to buy them. I mean, I think if or not, those modules might be under the policy econs, I might be wrong yeah. But by and large, it means that if you specialize, less flexibility. So take note. Also, second is if let's say you're double specializing like me, which technically you can do, it means that you may have to sacrifice not doing UEs or might weigh on your CAP, who knows, because let's say you double spec, then you have to die take certain modules, which means it might be a bit harder yeah. I guess the third thing is really to take note of is that the higher level modules, especially the 4Ks, are really a large step up in difficulty and I say that as a final year student, and especially if you take like micro and macroeconomic analysis tree, the 4301 and 4302, they are very, very different from 3301 and 3302 in terms of difficulty, in terms of the math. And so I think that's something to take note. Yeah. Then last is really that specialization, to be very honest, it does not guarantee you will stand out in the job market. I guess, if let's say you are taking econs because you want to be, an economist, then I think that's good. But let's say, you are taking econs, you do monetary and financial econs because you want to go into banking, go into finance, honestly, I don't think it's as relevant / useful. So that's something to take note. So I think for me personally, whether it has helped me, I guess is a yes and no. Yes, because I feel that it has helped me to better understand what I like and dislike. Then I guess the second is really, to say useful in, yeah. Oh. Okay, can you see? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I was here. Okay, yeah. So okay, go back to my point. Help me, yes and no So I think it has helped me in helping me to better understand what I like and dislike in terms of economics, in terms of various interests. For instance, even though I'm a quant spec, I realize I don't like quantitative econs, I don't like doing the math. It's very tedious for me, it's something that I'm genuinely not interested in. Yeah. But I think, it has also helped me that, okay, I like the financial econs portion more. So I think that's something that speaks to me better. But the second part is that, the specializations are not necessarily useful in providing me with the skill sets to prepare me for the workplace. And I speak that as honestly, as bluntly as I can. So don't take a specialization because you think like, oh, I am monetary and financial econs, confirm can go bank. I'm telling you, wake up your idea. Yeah. Because honestly, if you think about it, you're competing with, students from business analytics and computing science. You're competing with students that are majoring in finance from business. I would say they are taking modules that are much more relevant to to banking and finance. So be very upfront. I think like modules under this specialization, I think, money and banking, financial econs, these are perhaps the two key modules that perhaps might give you the knowledge that helps you stand out. But my point being is that you need to do much more than just taking these specializations if you want to aim towards that industry. And I think that, I'm based on my experiences, I think that's something that I have learned. Yeah. So I think these are just, some ending thoughts I want to share with everyone. So I think first, before you specialize, I think it's really to think about what you want to do in the future. Whether you want to go into policy, work as a civil servant, you have to go to Ministry of Trade Industry, or, you have to go to banking and finance, or you want to become a full-fledged economist, work for various other companies, whether is it Grab, whether is it, FMCG, food companies, or even a bank as well. So think about what you want to do in the future. And I think the second part is really to think of specialization as part of the journey. Does not mean you specialize in something means you have to do that as a full-time career. It's perhaps more of a better way to see specialization is something that you choose to do to figure out what you like and don't like. I think that's a better use case for specializations. And I think the third is really to weigh the pros and cons about specializing. Like I said, if you specialize, less flexibility. So I think that's something one should take note of. I think, especially if you think about me, I'm double specking. So, I don't really have a lot of flexibility in choosing modules. Yeah. But I think the main really thing above all is really to pursue your interest. If you take something just because you want to fulfill the spec, but you have no interest at all, right, it's going to be very painful, especially in your final year and your final few sems. Yeah. So that's my ending thoughts lah. Yeah. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Yipin, for sharing with us your two specializations and giving us your advice on them. Now I'll pass on the time to Yuhan to talk more about applied and policy economics. Yuhan, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can you see my slides? Yeah, I'm assuming you can. Okay, hi. So I'm Yuhan. I'll be talking about applied and policy economics today. A little bit about myself. So currently I'm year 3 economics major, but I minor in both geoscience and astronomy. As you can see, I'm quite a free individual. I just take whatever mods I like. A bit different from Yipin is I tend to focus more on research-based subjects. So for now, right, I'm thinking like, for example, my future career path is more towards PhD and research. And so for now, I'm also currently working as research assistant under a prof. So yeah, fun fact, I have a fat cat and I love to stargaze. Okay. Okay, so right, for those that may not have taken a look at applied and policy economics, we have 3K modules and 4K modules. So for 3K, you only need to take one. For me, at the time, I took international trade. So a little bit about international trade is that it's quite math-based, if you think about it. So we learn math models and everything. So I'm not very sure about others since I haven't taken them, but for those that maybe have a bit of difficulty with math, you may not want to take this one. But for those that like math modeling, yeah, totally go for it. It's quite fun. Okay, and then we also have a list of 4K modules. So I'm planning to take this one next sem. Is more likely a higher version of econometrics on top of EC 3303 and 3304. And okay, so you need to take 3 of the 4K modules. As you can see, applied and policy economics is very flexible because you actually have one of the most number of modules to choose from. And so for now, some of them are more math-based, whereas some of them, for example, like technology and innovation is purely essay-based. So you actually can try to look at comments from seniors and ask them what mods they've taken to know which one suits your interest. So I also took behavioral economics. I think they changed the module code for now, but for this one, mostly it's also more modeling based and also less math. So one thing is like for applied and policy economics, I feel that it's quite good for people that want a mix of essay and also math because it's not too heavy on both sides, depending on which modules you take. And it's also rather flexible. So as you can see, it caters to quite a lot of sectors of your interest. So yeah, you can keep that in mind. Okay, some things to take notes is some mods are very competitive, as in they have very few slots. So if you think about it, most of them are seminar style. Since most of them are seminar style, so sometimes when you bid on NUS mods, you may not be able to get a mod, but don't worry. When it comes to that, you can think about it later. So my advice is always plan ahead, because sometimes you may not be able to take the mod in that sem, and some mods may only be available in either sem 1 or sem 2. So you have to really plan your schedule well, given that places are always quite limited for some weird reason. I don't know why. Okay, yeah. Another thing, for those that are already used to Zoom lectures, 4K mods are usually seminar style, so no recording of lectures unless the professor wants to record. So please go for your lectures, even though most of the time they do not take attendance, but please go for your lectures. Yeah, as I've said, they are usually a mix of simple math and essays. Okay, possible career paths for applied and policy economics. This one I'm actually not very sure. I took it from the department website. So they said civil service, think tanks, and non-profit organization. For me personally, honestly speaking, I haven't done any internship. I couldn't offer you much on how it will affect your internship since I'm going more into research sector. But I feel that for those that want to do research, anything you learn will be useful. So my advice is try to take mods that suit your interest instead of wanting to specialize because you want to specialize to look good on your CV or look good on your degree. Yeah. Okay, I'm not very sure if any of you know, but if you have any queries, please go to Ask Econ. They tend to reply quite fast, so don't be shy to ask them for help. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Yuhan. Okay, so now, last but not least, we'll have Daniel to share with us more about quantitative economics. Daniel, please.
Hi, yeah, hope you all can see my screen. Yeah, so I'll be talking about quantitative economics, specialization. So before that, a little self-introduction of myself. I am currently a year 5 quantitative economics student. And if you're curious, on the left of the slide, you can see that I have taken different quantitative modules. So if you have any question regarding any of these modules, you can ask me later on. Yeah, and a little more about myself. I'm currently doing an internship at GovTech as a data scientist. And previously, I have internship experiences in the roles of data engineer, as well as AI ML engineer, or basically machine learning engineer. Yeah. So to start, quantitative economic specialization is all about equipping yourself with skills and knowledge in economic theory and quantitative methods. To be more specific, these quantitative methods apply in different fields of economics, including financial economics, where you do financial forecasting. So just now, Ipin already went through a bit of the prerequisites to get this specialization. But just to add on a little bit more, so if you see, to complete one of the, to get the specialization, you need to complete one of the following 3,000 modules, followed by 4301, 4302, and then 2 of the following 4,000 modules. And from my experience, the more theoretical modules, basically the math-heavy modules, would be 3312, 3304, 4301, 4302, 4303, and 4313. So just to take note. And the more technically demanding modules, basically a bit more programming, will be 4304 and 4308. So what does this specialization entails? So ultimately, you do a lot of math. Yeah, like what Ipin said, it's a lot of math. And to add on to that, you have to be good at basic programming as well. So this applies to modules such as 4304 and 4308, where you have to use Stata and R. So in summary, a lot of math and basic programming. So this slide is just my own personal experience. So a little taste of what to expect when you do quantitative modules. Essentially reading and writing a lot of code and math. And from the 3 different images on the slide, these are all from different modules. So starting from the left will be 4304. So you have to get used to looking at all this data code because you'll be seeing them very, very often when you do this module. And then in the middle, which is 4302, again, a lot of math. This will be your bread and butter. You'll be writing a lot of equations and solving them. And on the right will be 4308, where you have to basically develop machine learning models to predict certain things, basically. So initially for me, the mathematical and technical rigor can be a bit overwhelming because you're basically reading code and writing a lot of math every single day. But honestly, from my experience, with a lot of practice, all these modules are actually very doable. So if you have a passion for programming and math, like me, so don't be disheartened because it's really actually very doable. Little fun fact, I am not good at financial modules, like financial economics modules. I actually do the worst for these modules. So I decided to spec in quantitative economics because all the modules that were offered in this specialization was up my alley. So that's why I did this specialization. So from what I shared up to this point, I believe all of you will understand by now that this specialization trains you to have an analytical mind, and you also possess technical skills. So from my experience, these skills are very relevant in the workplace when you have to deal with data of some sort and solving business problems that require quantitative methods. So personally for me, this specialization has helped me become comfortable with reading numbers, especially when in my internship, I have to read machine learning research papers. So that includes a lot of math symbols and definitions. So it definitely helped me be comfortable reading them and to understand and not be too in a sense scared to read. You'll be very overwhelmed to read the math. Yeah. And also help me to become a better problem solver, because when I analyze data, I am able to come up with solutions to solve them. Yeah. So these are just some of the career paths that I picked up from LinkedIn. Essentially, all these jobs, their requirements are basically quantitative in nature. So you can see from this slide that there are actually a lot of jobs out there that can be applicable to you. But like what Ipin said, you're competing with a lot of other students from other faculties, like those studying business analytics or data science and analytics. But nonetheless, if you are passionate enough, if you are well equipped enough, I believe that you stand a chance to compete with. It's like basically you have a fair chance in fighting for these roles as well. So essentially, this specialization is suitable for anyone that wants to do quantitative work, because these jobs usually demand statistics and programming experiences, which you will definitely learn when you take up this specialization. Yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, all seniors, for your presentations. Now it's time for Q&A. So if any of you guys have questions for any of the seniors for all the specializations, please feel free to unmute or ask in the chat. Yeah, so go ahead. The floor is open to all of you guys. Anyone has anything?
Hello. Yeah, hi. I have a question. I have some questions. Hold on. I'm just trying to find. Oh, hi. Sorry. My questions are mainly directed towards those who have taken the quantitative specialization. Yeah, I'd just like to find out more about for EC 4304 and EC 4308, as in both are on like economic and financial forecasting. So like I like to know like what are the like practical differences in the content between these two modules.
Yeah, I think I can take this one. So I've done both 4308 and 4304, and personally for me, they are both quite different because for 4304, you'll definitely do a lot of financial forecasting, which and the programming language is completely different. You're using Stata, and the models that you learn in 4304 is, if not completely different from the models that you learn in 4308, because 4308 mainly focuses on machine learning methods. So there is some overlap in some of the chapters, but overall, I would say they are both very different. And if you can, if you like programming and learning the models and how they forecast different scenarios, then yeah, you should take both 4304 and 4308, because you'll learn not only two different programming languages, but also machine learning methods, as well as econometrics, basically those forecasting models that you learn, like autoregressive models that you learn in 4304, which will not be covered in 4308. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The another question I have is also like, what are the easiest and most difficult modules that you feel you've taken in the quantitative specialization?
I think this question is quite subjective lah, because for me, what's difficult could be different from other people. For me, 4304 was the hardest module. What else? And 4302, 4301 and 4302 are difficult modules as well, personally for me, because those are extremely math heavy. And if you're not careful, one of the SEM, you could get a professor that is not very eloquent in English. And when they teach, you might not understand. You need to self-learn a lot of things. So 4301 and 4302 for me, as well as 4304, because 4304 is using Stata, and to debug certain lines of code, it's very difficult to find online, because Stata is such an old programming language, such that there's barely any forums out there. So you might need to ask the prof frequently. Other than that, I feel like every other module has its challenges because of the math. But if you enjoy doing math, I think it should be no problem if you do enough practice. Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, I just have one last question. I think for those who have taken a quantitative specialization, can you recommend some level 4K modules that are more technical, like more programming and stuff? Because besides 4304 and 4308, if there are any, because I saw, like, for example, transport economics uses MATLAB, yeah, for analysis.
I've taken one other module that's apart from the specialization, which is 4305. That also entails Stata programming, so you can try that out. I quite enjoyed that module as well. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so Leon has a question for Epin. Ipin, do you wanna go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So I have taken actually. So I've taken FIN 2704, so that's just normal finance. I've taken 3701 corporate finance, and also taking 3702 this sem lah. So that's investment analysis. By right, in the past, apparently, financial econs, which is EC 3333, is supposed to be precluded with FIN 3702, but this preclusion has been waived already lah. So technically, you take both. So let's say if you have taken FIN 3702, would I recommend you to take for 3333? I would say yes lah, if you did well in it. My opinion is that the financial modules are much more practical in some sense. They go a bit more in depth lah. So for example, 3333, when I took it, it just covered basic types of equity analysis lah, just using CAPM model to analyze the prices of assets lah. Whereas, if you go to 3702, they perhaps may not necessarily go that much in depth, but I think in terms of the breadth, they are much more wider lah. So that's one. And the second thing is in terms of how the module is structured. So like most econs modules, is usually final 50%, midterm 40%, 10% class part. Whereas, if you go to these modules, is perhaps 20-25% for each component, and you have group projects, as group assignments. So the bad thing about group assignments is that you have to find people to work with. But it's a good thing, I think, because like for example, the FIN modules, we learn how to do like style analysis for stocks and funds. It's something that you will never do at the econs modules. So I would say like, if let's say you have to choose between the two, I would actually recommend you to go and take the finance modules instead of the like financial econs, to be very honest. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ipin. Brian is asking Yuhan about the applied and policy spec. What are some of the modules you have taken that are more essay-based instead of quantitative or math-based? So Yuhan, go ahead.
Okay. Hi. So basically for apply and policy spec, since I'm only year 3, I've only taken 3 4Ks. So for one that is purely essay-based is technology and innovation, EC 4372. So for this one, all of the continuous assessment past final assessment will be fully essay. Yeah, so this one is pure essay. The other one is behavioral economics. For that one, I would say is relatively math light plus, how should I say, 4K mods, they usually will have a continuous component that is continuous assessment that is usually essay-based. So this one, I would say that most of the questions set by prof are short answer questions catered more towards essay side. Yeah. So for the rest, I do not really know whether they are more essay-based or more math-based, but if you are looking for pure essay-based, yeah, technology and innovation should be your first choice. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, seeing there are no questions in the chat. This is a question from the forums actually. This is also to Yuhan about applied and policy specialization. So this person is asking, which 4K level modules would you recommend for the specialization?
Okay. Honestly, all of them looks interesting. So for now, all the mods that I've taken is just, as I said, technology and innovation and behavioral economics. Both of them are relatively good, I feel. So some tips for choosing mods that you want to take is sometimes I choose based on the prof I've taken in the previous sems. So for sometimes from 1K to 3K, you'll come in contact with various different profs. And if there are some that you like the teaching style or you like what they are teaching on, for 4K, students tend to choose these profs to continue what they've taught in 3K or even 2K modules. So that's one of my suggestions. Another one is, actually, you don't have to think too much about it. You can go onto NUS mods and take a look at the summary. or you can just look at the title and see which one interests you, which is what I usually do. Yeah, just go by gut feeling and interest, I would say, because it's very hard to tell whether that module really suits you before you have taken it. So unless you have taken it yourself, because I would say that you can ask people for their views and comments, but sometimes all of these are very subjective. So yeah, just follow your interest, and if you think you like the prof or if you think you like the content talk, just go for it. Don't be afraid.
Okay, thank you, Yuhan. There's another question from Anirudh. It's a general question here. Are there any disadvantages if I don't specialize in anything? I.e. taking random ones from all specs. So any senior, you can go ahead.
I would say no lah, actually. To be very honest, I think a spec can be a double-edged sword. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say you take quant spec, and then, you know, people say like, oh, you take quant spec, maybe you're good at econometrics. Then let's say you get shortlisted for interview and you don't know how to answer the question, that would be good also lah. So I guess it's I don't, to be very honest, I don't think a lot of employers now are looking like, oh, okay, you specialize in A, B, C, or D, I'm going to shortlist you for an interview, or you're fit for a job. I don't think that's the case. It's more like people see, oh, you major in econs, and then they think like, oh, okay, if you major in econs, you will have basic knowledge about micro and macro, basic understanding of behavioral econs, policy econs. I think that's what the employers now are kind of looking for lah. So I don't think you'll be necessarily disadvantaged. But that being said, you know, it is kind of like your choice, and I think like what Rihan said also, like, you know, you should just follow your interest in terms of doing what you want to do. But you know, if you feel that you like a bit for everything, you know, for all three specializations, then, you know, you should weigh your options and perhaps decide not to specialize lah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Epin. Just to keep it going, here's another question from the forums. Any particular job or field are you considering for your chosen specialization? So I guess this is also open for all the seniors. And follow up, how useful are the machine learning and forecasting modules? So anyone?
Sorry, what's the first part of the question again? Sorry.
The first part is, any particular job/field are you considering for your chosen specialization? Yeah.
Particular job or field. Yeah, so for my presentation for the quant spec specifically, yeah, you'll be looking more towards the quantitative, I mean, jobs that demand the quantitative side of things. So your statistics, your programming, all this should be at the back of your head when you apply for these kind of jobs. And for the second question, machine learning, how useful is it? I think, to me, that's my favorite module in the entire spec, because I mean, machine learning itself is an exciting field. So I think it's very applicable. Even right now in my current workplace as a data scientist, you have to do a lot of modeling and playing around with different kinds of machine learning models. So I would say this is a good starting point for you to touch on machine learning, because you learn the math and you get to hands-on and apply some of the models that you've learned. So yeah, I think it's to me, up to today, in terms of my internship experience, this module has been the one that has been at the back of my head throughout, because I have to think of the math, especially when you're explaining models to non-technical people at the workplace. Yeah, so this will come in handy when you have to understand inside out why certain models perform better and what are the disadvantages and so forth. Yeah.
maybe I can share more about the financial econs lah. I guess it depends. So if you take like say 4333 like financial economics to I guess some of the concepts that you learn in terms of the so for example like financial econs to I think under Prof. Albert, he really goes in depth into like how perhaps like some of the mathematical models are constructed. So I think that's good if let's say you are perhaps someone who is doing quant spec and then like you can perhaps like potentially map out, construct like using programming and construct the model. I think then that would be a good match lah. But let's say you're someone that plans to go into banking, go into finance. I think financial econs 1, so for 3, and then money and banking, that might provide you with the basic markets knowledge lah for most financial roles. But I don't think it goes that in depth into say like what people in business school are learning with regards to financial modeling, with regards to accounting and so on and so forth lah. So I would say for the jobs that you are available to, or like if you do like let's say you spec this, what jobs can you do? I think it's really up to you to decide. Like I think based on what I say, it's not just necessary you have to use the spec alone to find these jobs. Like you have to kind of pair it up with other modules you do elsewhere and how you really build up your portfolio of skill sets, like your tools or skill sets, to really tell the employer that okay, I'm actually as good as the student from accounting or finance, even though I'm just an econs major and I specialize in monetary and financial econs. And that by speccing in monetary and financial econs, I actually have an advantage over these students as well because I'm able to provide the macroeconomic viewpoint. I'm able to provide the quantitative aspect as well. Yeah. So I think most people that do monetary and financial econ, I think most of us tend to go towards money and banking. Sorry, not money and banking. Go towards banking and finance. Whether is it applying for local banks, foreign banks, applying for the asset management firms, so on and so forth. I do have friends that say, for example, I have this friend, he did an internship at OCBC. Doing econometric analysis lah, but he did not have a specialization at all. So it's not necessarily the specialization that determines what you will do. Actually, it's more of your interest and how do you tell the employer you have these skill sets. Yeah.
Yeah, actually to add on to what Yipin said, yeah, your spec doesn't define guarantee you that you land these jobs. Like personally for me, the roles that I've taken are to me personally it's extremely hard to get because from a econs major standpoint, you are fighting with computer science students for roles like AI engineer. So for me personally, because I have a passion for it, I have to take the time away from school to learn to basically get certificates and learn Python programming myself, as well as learning machine learning stuff online as well. So basically there's a lot of self work that you need to do. So the specialization itself is just it's just to support what interests you. And for me personally, the stuff that I've studied in school are to my interest, which is quantitative modules. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Daniel and Yipin. We're actually ending soon, so if anyone has any questions, we can take one more question. Yeah, we'll wait for a minute or two. Okay, I think there are no more questions. So if the seniors have nothing else to add, just like to thank you guys again so much for coming down and taking the time to talk to us. It was really insightful. And of course, to all the participants who also attended this sharing. I can go to the next slide. Yeah, so we hope you guys can just take this time to scan this QR code and give us some feedback we can use for future ECS events. Yeah, so I'll give you guys a few seconds to do that.